Giving, hallelujah, the highest praise, hallelujah, giving the highest praise, hallelujah, giving the highest praise. In the morning when I wake up, in the night when I wake up, I lift up my voice to heaven and give you the highest praise. Hallelujah to my King. Hallelujah to my Father. Hallelujah to my Jesus. I bow before the throne. When I look at all the wonder and I see all the creation, the beauty of the universe, you never, never change. You never, never lie. You never, never change. You never, never change. Hallelujah to my Jesus. Hallelujah. 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 Hey, hey. Hallelujah. Giving, hallelujah, the highest praise, hallelujah, giving the highest praise, hallelujah, giving the highest praise. From the friend, Jehovah, from the worship, Jehovah. Okay, good evening, folks. We want to welcome you to good afternoon on my end. It's 1:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As usual, we want to take on some critical conversation right here regarding to Liberia. A lot is unfolding. There's going to be a multiple conversation here. I'm going to be having to one of the best. We are all out there to know what is going on, to get the expertise and those that have it. Well, the coalition process in Liberia, I'm not sure what is working, so I don't know why other people want to involve in coalition, but we want to take the first segment, one of Liberia finance, scientists, here activists, here politicians, bundle three all in one. Dr. Dougbeh going to be my special guest. We're going to be tapping into his expertise as usual. The latest, what we should be aware of with the variant, the Omicrons, or what's happening. So what is he hearing from inside Liberia and other places that he's been working? And of course, at the end of it, we're going to twist the coin to get his political take. There is they are the progressive in Liberia. But the progressives seem not to be finding their voice, or they have not found their voices for quite a while now. But with the volatile and fragile political situations, what can the progressive do to pivot or to change the narrative? I'll be talking to one of the progressive. He is Chris Dougbeh. He's going to be here. The group, the National Democratic Coalition, how are they going to appeal with the electorates in Liberia? Many more going to be our conversation. I am Alfonso Zienso of the Liberia Public Radio and Lpr-Tv. We want to welcome you this afternoon. Thank you for joining us here. Let's see here. But this is what unfolded yesterday, courtesy of our sister network, Spoon. But let me just bring you this image here from my front page here. I will also be getting his take. Peaceful protest turns chaotic. That's the front page news headline. Let's get a conversation going, and we get this program away. Okay, good afternoon, good evening to Liberia, to welcome this, should I say, going to be the second to the last program before I take off. So I'm going to give some high punches here this evening, but believe me, he's strong. So let's see how it's going to go. My guest is standing by. Let me just bring him in. Dr. Chris Dougbeh will be right here this afternoon with me. I had to do this to always be getting your phone off the hook, but it's part of our community commitment to always tap into the expertise of those who knows the story, who can interpret it perfectly, and hear from them. You are on God 3-in-1. If possible, 4, 5, 6-in-1. I'm not sure how you're doing it, but we're going to have that conversation here. Dai, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Alfonso, and good afternoon to your audience, particularly those in Liberia and around the world.
Okay. Sometimes we send message here and there, but pretty close, more than a month now since you appear on this network. How are things so far?
Well, pretty fine. We have been watching the process. We have been engaging and also taking note of what has been happening in the global medical world and making our intervention in helping to to stamp out the coronavirus outbreak that has engulfed the entire world.
No.
And of course, as indicated, we've been following the politics in the country, Liberia to be specific, and of course on the African continent. And from the side of the National Democratic Coalition, which is the social democratic coalition in Liberia, we have been engaging. We have initiated our engagement.
Okay. The cat is already out of the bed, but I'm going to go to priority number one because this is what I find interesting. What is happening in the medical world is huge. And as usual, don't build me because you have been providing these sort of community services to tap into your expertise pro bono. So I'm sure I'm not going to get a bill here from LPR. LPR does not have a dime to pay you. I am on my way to Liberia. The virus is everywhere. What should be my thinking cap? What should I be considering right now heading to Liberia?
The virus, as I indicated, has engulfed the entire world since 2020. And all efforts have been put in place in order to combat it. That includes diagnostics, development of vaccines, and development of various medications. Now we have tablets developed by Pfizer and Merck that can also be used in the clinical process of treatment. Uh, Looking at the situation in Liberia and most of Africa, we have not been hit hard, but we have had several waves which have drawn concern among us in the medical, scientific, and public health arena. Liberia's response has been kind of a mixed bag, and there have been a lot of lapses in how Liberia has been responding. Those who followed my interviews with you on LPR and on other media since this pandemic started will know how the response has been going. Uh, there's a serious lack of testing capacity in the country, even up to this date. A journalist who just recently returned, Hassan Kiawu, if you followed his diary on Facebook, you will see this confirmation. That is of concern. The fact that people enter the airport and are not adequately tested and are not put through the actual testing procedures makes it a vulnerable situation that the virus, whatever the variant may be, we had a Delta variant before, now we have the Omicron, and we have another variant which just erupted in France, may be filtering into our countries. And that people should be concerned of. The best I can tell people, and I have been telling our citizens, is that you need to follow the regulations that we have put in place locally and globally. Continue to wear your masks, uh, keep your distances. I hope at the airport these distances have been maintained because I did not see that when I was there. I hope it has been improved now. And since you are leaving from the States and going, if you have the opportunity, you can take some rapid testing kits with you so that in case you experience any symptoms that you surmise to be something like COVID, although we have symptoms of other diseases that appear like COVID, but you will have the opportunity of self-testing. And so those are the concerns that I think you should have. By and large, continue to wear your masks, continue to sanitize and wash your hands. keep your distances. It's difficult when you go places like Waterside and red light and those high human traffic market area. So these regulations will, to a larger extent, help.
Okay. One of the challenges being faced is the issue of wearing this mask. Living from here, going back home, going to meet your family members, going to meet friends, and all of that. There are a lot of things you want to factor in. Oh, he's too American, stereotype, and all of that. Seriously, he wearing masks here, they kind of hit here like this, and they are very difficult things to deal with because you like trying to isolate yourself from people. Though it's realistic, it's real. I am being a victim of this virus twice. Even though I'm fully vaccinated, I got my booster, but the last one when it came, I didn't even know until a friend, a brother, from my boss, I was talking. He said, "That's a virus." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm fully vaccinated." No, that just a weather change. New England weather is, it just. He said, "I'm telling you." Until when my regular uh, job is a regular weekly test. It came,
Right.
email came this time around, very sensitive. I always look at it, I didn't even check it. Guess what? Real story. I was on I-95 on the highway heading to work. And then my manager called me, "Where are you?" Which was very unusual that sort of evening. That usually it's like a text, but then the phone call came, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm heading to work." He said, "No, my man, you can't go." I like, "Why?" XY bombshell drop. I said, "You kidding me?" I pulled over. When I opened my email, the whole day result, it was rare. I couldn't believe it. So, how can you deal with this situation? How convincing you can make this argument? Going to your brothers, going to your family members. Yes, they know this thing is existing. I'm not gonna. Where's my what I have? I can. This is a M3 now. I can take this and put it like this here. They feel like they are not part of me, and I
Yeah.
will be kind of rejected. So this is the task. How can
Yeah,
I do it?
certainly the concerns you are raising are very legitimate. Nevertheless, again, when I stated that the response of the government is a mixed bag, you will see that there has not up to now been adequate and consistent conscientization and sensitization of the population. Again, I said consistent. This kind of sensitization and education of the population regarding the pandemic has to be consistent. It has to be regular. It has to be broad. It has to be, hit a wide range of the country, the
Capacity,
perimeters of
not
the
to
country.
interrupt you,
Yeah.
Doctor, the capacity factor in as well. Do we have the capacity to continue the consistency? All of that. I mean, they are critical point, but do we have that capacity?
I certainly believe that we do have such a capacity. There, there has been money made available for fighting the pandemic. And I believe that the misappropriation of the money and the lack of the competence to carry out these activities make us to kind of appear to lack the capacity, but we have capacity in and out of the country, except that this capacity is not being employed and it is not been allowed into the country. I was in the country and carried out lots of awareness. Even when I was outside of the country, I carried out a lot of awareness, and we intervene in particular situations, particularly during the vaccine era when I was in the country and went from community to community and utilized the airways to encourage the citizens to take the vaccine. When the Liberian government at the time had not even had any much of a publicity going about the vaccine, although they had a vaccine available 2 3 months about 2 months prior. So it goes to say that we do have capacity, but the manner in which the capacity is not being employed, and you have incompetent people taking over responsibility of professionals, that makes it very difficult in our response to the pandemic in Liberia. Um, Family members can be really educated when you get there to inform them, and we now have to be the ambassadors for ourselves and the whole pandemic response. When I was there, I was the only one wearing double masks at a time. You can imagine. Not many people were wearing masks. Few people were wearing masks, but I was the only one wearing double masks.
What was the repercussion? How people were looking at you? How you were being perceived?
The good thing is that coming from the profession as a doctor and scientist and public health practitioner, they saw that as an example. So what I was saying to them or preaching to them is what I was practically acting out. And so it did convince them. Also, I had taken my vaccine before I left. And so telling them to take the vaccine was another plus because I had taken the vaccine. They saw me alive talking to them. So much of the skepticism and hesitancy that was surrounding that was dispelled by my presence. And so you coming from the United States or our brothers and sisters coming from Europe going back home to Liberia can carry the message as well. We should be the example of what we will be preaching. And I continue to tell our people, wear your masks. Now, coming to the mask issue, the US CDC has said that the N95 mask is the best that everybody should now be using because of the Omicron variant, which is very transmissible. I am encouraging our people, giving our own limitation, to continue to use our locally made masks. Something is better than nothing. We were the same one who were the first to encourage our people to wear masks, use the local materials to make masks and wear them. When the Western world were telling us that, oh no, those things will not help. They won't do this, they won't do that. You need to wear the surgical masks, but the surgical masks were not available with us. But that intervention by us to credit the Rotary Club and Africa Bio, having discussed with them, began to produce the locally made masks in Liberia, and other African countries began to produce locally made masks, and that helped a lot. So we should be the ambassadors to carry out this message of the pandemic response against hesitancy, for wearing masks, for washing hands, for keeping our social distance, for getting vaccinated, and for getting the boosters.
The enforcement aspect that is one of the cardinal one. For example, here in the US, entering federal buildings, you have to wear your mask. Some businesses, even when you enter, you have to. There is an indicator before you even enter, wear it. How can these type of laws be enforced in Liberia?
People have to live by example, as I said earlier. Our government officials needed to have taken the vaccine when they had not, most of them had not taken the vaccine. It is very questionable whether the president had even taken the vaccine or not. That we don't know.
Should we worry about that?
That we should worry about that. That in itself is national security. Our president needs to be secure, and his health is part of the security. So we should be concerned about that. And the Ministry of Health needs to ensure that our top government officials and other government officials have taken the vaccine and have displayed that to the public so as to induce confidence in the population. Enforcement is one thing which has not been widely practiced in our part of the world, in Liberia, for example. And most times I compare Liberia with other countries. I compare Liberia specifically with Rwanda because I have quite a good bit of experience with that part of the world, Rwanda, Kenya, etc. Rwanda enforces the law on the pandemic response. Wearing of masks in various facilities, whether public or businesses, washing of hands. They have several washing stations, and they are carrying out mass vaccination, if we can put it that way, far more than Liberia. So if Rwanda can do this and they have a very good response, how is it that Liberia, with all the resources, cannot do that?
So yeah, then let me ask you, let me flip the coins around. You guys are the politicians, you are the advocates, and tons of them are out there. If the government is to go aggressive on this, look, or everybody must wear this must be done outside of even government domains. Advocate will come out to say, hey, government is intruding, even though it's a national health crisis, but you're still going to have people, politicians will also factor politics into this here because, and I'm saying this to say, I'm not seeing the sort of national consensus, both with the opposition, the government, to say, look, let's come up with this agreeable agenda because they too have a responsibility to pass these messages to their supporters, to people that follow them. But again, politics has overshadowed everything, so that makes it very difficult. How do you respond to that?
It is incumbent upon every sector of the society and leaders in every sector of the society to help enforce these regulations or to carry out conscientization, sensitization, and education of the population. The opposition politicians, as we call them, have a lot of influence. They have a lot of gatherings, and I think at these kind of gatherings, those are
They are not
opportunities that can be used.
They are not even illustrators of that. So if they call them political leaders, whatever they are, when they get their mouth or they're sneezing, coughing, also spraying this virus potentially, because nobody know, how can you even tell people because you're not setting as an example? So how can you even go back and tell them, say, hey, you wear it when you're not even wearing it?
It's one of the inherent weaknesses in our system that even those so-called, referenced political leaders, by and large, at certain point in time, are not being the examples that the people need to follow. Government officials also have large gatherings where you have citizens not wearing masks. You have political rallies where you have citizens not wearing masks and you find only a few persons wearing masks. We think that if the government had an enforcement arm that will adhere to these laws, that government, say that again?
What would be the example of the enforcement arm?
I mean, you should have security that will ensure, for example, that anyone coming into that gathering should have a mask on at the entrance of that gathering. That's a simple enforcement that can be carried out. So if you don't have a mask, definitely you will be restricted from entering, which is very simple. There should be enforcement at various businesses as well. I know most of the businesses have private security guards, and sometimes you see our police officers at various public buildings. They should be there also enforcing the laws. But the fact that government officials themselves are not setting the example, it makes it difficult for even the law enforcement to enforce the law or for the citizens to follow. As we say, do what I do. Live by examples.
Live by example. I'm not sure we are living by that example today. Are we?
Unfortunately, we can say.
Okay. So I know you talk to your colleagues within the medical or scientific world. Where can we give edge? Is there any edge we can give to GOL? That's the government of Liberia with respect to what is going on the COVID. Where you see, have you heard? Where do you see improvement being done? Anything?
I have been following. The drawback is that when you engage the authorities, they don't respond. All through the time, it's been difficult getting response.
They said you two are critical guy. Some say when we talk to other people in there, he say, yeah, he's a good guy, but his voice too. He's so. What is the deal? Why are they not responding? Is it because you're opposition, or you have a kind of strong voice against the government? Is that a reason, or what?
Well, I have a critique of the in these recent years, the last 2.5 years, I have been very critical of the way the pandemic response has been executed. And my criticism has been validated by everything I've said and what the government later later came to understand. So it is unfortunate that our people think we should, in our professions, we should be unprofessional and we should be praise sinkers, that which I am not. We need testing kits in the country. We need testing kits. Provide money so that we can have adequate testing kits in the country. If you don't do that and you provide the money for something else other than pandemic response, we have the right to question that and criticize that. If we make our technologies available and our skills available to participate and help, and you refuse that, but yet people are getting sick, then we have the right to question the logic of the government and policymakers. So the critical nature of our intervention has always been to help the situation. I have made specific suggestions over time, which they have acted on, even if they didn't acknowledge or credit me, but they have acted on those. So it is unfortunate that the government and people within government will only think that you should sing praises, and that is the only way you will be accepted. Throughout my life, from childhood through college and in my professional life, I have been a critical person. So I'm not the one to sing praises to anyone.
Is your criticism, is it that personal or is it authentic? Is it real? Is it in the interest of the people of Liberia, or to take a shot at maybe the GOL?
To this date, no one has come out to say that my criticisms, my critical review of government policy, government health policy, and government pandemic response has been personal. It has always been professional. I give you a few examples. I wrote the Ministry of Health when the pandemic broke out, when everybody was relaxed. And it was not just our Ministry of Health. We sent out communication to almost the entire African Ministry of Health in the various countries. It was well accepted by other countries. And now you'll be surprised to know that only Liberia rejected that and refused to listen to what we were saying. We proposed closing down of the borders at the time in the initial stages when other countries were closing down their borders. The government saw that as criticizing them unnecessarily. Only 3 months later for the health minister to announce that they were closing down the borders. We asked them to stop using the wrong testing kits that were being used in the United States, which the United States has stopped using. The government said it was a wrong way advising them, only to note that they were using those kits, and ultimately they stopped using those kits. We asked them to carry out mass education, to appropriate money in the budget for the pandemic response so that we could produce testing kits for the country when testing kits were in short supply. They refused that. Instead, they said it was a critical review of them. Instead, they appropriated $30 million, which they sourced from the World Bank or IMF, and they used that for food distribution. We said it was not necessary to use such a huge amount for food distribution because the people didn't need food at the time. They were not, if I locked up at the time. Only for government to come back later on to say that, in fact, the money was misused. So the government has validated everything that I have said consistently. The question has been, what is the problem with the government? During the Ebola crisis, we trained almost 2,000 plus respondents for future pandemic.
Let me turn the coin around here too. What is the problem with Liberia, or what is the problem with Liberians in general? Is that a fair question to ask? Besides the government, do we have a problem as well?
I think the leaders, the national leadership is the problem. The national leadership is the one that should set the pace, that should set the example for the rest of the country, for the rest of the population to follow. And so I will blame it on the lack of vision, the lack of a national plan on the part of our leaders that we put in office every time, for which the situation in the country is the way it is in every sector of our society, particularly even so politically.
Okay. I have a last and final question here, and then because the bottom line of this thing here is the political aspect of it. People make political decisions, electors, the citizenry, they vote, and we have a leader. So we're going to be changing the topic here. But before we go here, I want to get the a scientific or a real medical advice. There are two schools of thoughts. Once, if you for example, you were tested positive in a month, others say that you don't have to do another test after 3 months. You can do another test after 1 month, even though you feel fine. What is it, medical or logical backing for that? If I'm tested positive today, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I feel fine. Can I still go and get another test? And if I did, what could potentially be the result for that?
The virus has what we call an incubation period. The coronavirus 2. That incubation period means the time you get infected with it and the time it takes to get situated in your body and then it begin to multiply. That's that incubation period. It takes anywhere from 3 to 7 days or more, depending on your body system.
Right.
Now, during that time, when you start to show symptoms and you go for a test, that test most likely will become positive. You become positive because you now start to share the virus. So you become positive. Now, there are 2 tests being done. There were 3 tests actually: antibody test, antigen test, and the RT-PCR, what they commonly call PCR.
Yeah.
The antigen test and the PCR are meant to show whether the virus is active in you and you are shedding the virus. The antibody test is only to show that you came in contact with the virus and you started fighting it. That's all the antibody test tells you. Yeah, so now, when you just a minute, when you take the test within 1 week to 2 weeks after you start to show symptoms, it will be positive. Now, after that period, depending on your body system and the treatment you are taking, your shedding of the virus could wind down, and within 3 weeks you could then test negative. That is why we talk about this periodic test. Now, if you were vaccinated, we have these breakthrough infections now. So even if you were vaccinated and had your boosters, like in your case and in many people's cases, you still become infected, but you don't come down with the disease severely as someone who is not vaccinated would have come down severely with the disease. So it prevents hospitalization, it prevents death. Let's put it that way. So if you are tested, you could test positive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. In fact, sometimes you can be asymptomatic, meaning you don't have any symptoms at all. You don't have any fever, you're not coughing, you feel normal, yet you could test positive. And that is why in various workplaces, there is this rule now, particularly in the schools, that the students are being tested weekly, every week, because there are some people who are asymptomatic and they could be sharing the virus and we wouldn't know. So that is why those tests are for. The RT-PCR test is meant to confirm what the antigen test shows. Sometimes the antigen test may be false positive. You may be infected, but it may say you are not infected. But when that sample goes to the lab and we do the RT-PCR test, it can come out it's more sensitive.
You're getting me nervous right now, and I don't want to put myself in a nervous situation. So the PCR test, more or less, is the laboratory one?
Yeah, it's the laboratory is the one that is sent. This is the one that is done in the laboratory when your samples are sent there. The antigen test can also be done in the laboratory, but it is done as a rapid test now, like the simply put, the pregnancy test kind of situation, pregnancy test type kind of formulation. That's how it is. It has those strips on it. You put the sample in, and then you see the red lines coming out, whether you are positive or you are not positive, looking at the control area and the testing area to indicate whether you are positive or you are negative. So that is why when you are traveling, it is asked that you do your testing, and that testing is done in the laboratory. That's the PCR test that is done.
Oh boy, let's change the gear here because I don't want my cholesterol and blood pressure to go up this afternoon. I am Afonso Z and so of the Liberia Public Radio. So we're going to take a quick break and I will be back. This time we're going to change the gear. We're going to change the topic. We have a lot of documents in our possession. National Democratic Coalition of Liberia. We'll be right back. Okay, folks, time check is 2:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like I told you, like we said, Dr. Dougbeh is triple or quadruple tax. He's a scientist, he's an activist, he's a politician. We have visited a medical war. We're about to talk some politics. Can we talk there?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Here is the deal. These documents we have yet, National Democratic Coalition of Liberia. Is a political party?
The National Democratic Coalition of Liberia is one of several national coalitions of parties in Liberia. Okay. It is a social democratic progressive party, progressive coalition. It is comprised of the New Deal movement, which had its motto as Liberia First. New Deal movement was founded in 1999, 2000, and participated in the 2005 elections and put forth candidates for the 2011 elections, at which time the National Democratic Coalition was formed. The other coalition in the the other party in this coalition is the Free Democratic Party. Then you have other political, social democratic entities that are affiliating with the National Democratic Coalition.
Okay. I'd like to hear it from the houses more. I am nervous and over nervous when I see the name coalition based on what we are experiencing right now. Liberians are scared, are freaking out when they hear the name coalition. If they are not, I am freaking out because what I'm seeing, what is unfolding, is just beyond the pale. Why make your coalition? Why makes this coalition to be better than the coalition that we have now that is already torn apart? That I can say in my own view. Why should we be better with this sort of coalition? Why? The progressive being around for quite a long while. You guys being in the vanguard, Larry Toba, there are a lot of you. Why is the progressive message is not resonating? What is lacking? How can you have the Boyka, the Ure, the Cummings? These people, they're still in the show, and the progressive has fallen for a lot of social and economic growth of the country. Yet they are not picking your phone. They are not picking up you guys' phone call. Why?
First and foremost, we are not calling anyone. I know you're trying to say that not literally per se. The National Democratic Coalition was founded based on national principles, based on national philosophies, which coined into our party or coalition philosophy, that of the interest of the country being foremost and prime, above individual interest. The interest of the country being advocating for the rights of the people to multi-party democracy, advocating for the rights of the people to education, quality education, a free one, advocating for the rights of the people to quality and free health, advocating for good governance.
Is that a socialist group or what?
It's a social democratic. You can describe it as socialist like other social democratic parties that are in Europe, that are leading Europe today. The Labour Party in Britain. Yeah, the Social Democratic Party of Germany, the Social Democratic Party of in Belgium, the Labour Party in Israel, the Democratic Party in the United States, all share similar principles. So, so you can see the bedrock upon which the Social Democratic Coalition, which is the NDC, is founded. The difference is that other coalitions, as we can see and has been exemplified, were not founded on fundamental philosophies that takes the interest of the country first and foremost. So being founded around individual aspiration lends that particular collaboration, coalition, or alliance to infighting on personal basis. It leads to promotion of personality cult other than the interest of the country. And that's what we have seen happening in the just recently collapsed coalition, collaborating political parties. And we have simplified that, we have clarified that over and over. Yeah. There is an attempt by a certain sector of the society to confuse our people. And we think this is about time. We have been working quietly. It's about time to come out and actively, overtly engage the politics of the country and do the best we can to clarify these issues and make our people to understand that what they are seeing is not all Liberia, that Liberia has better people, Liberia has better capacity, Liberia has better qualities, Liberia has better expertise that can be showcased to the world.
Do you regret the situation why you've been working so quietly? Because your quietness get us to be these folks now, they are almost 60, 70 miles per hour, even though it's true, because a long time we had this conversation almost a year ago, and that prediction that, hey, these people is all about maybe popularity contest or individual contest. There is no, they do not have an agenda. It is glaring, seeing the infight. Now, potentially, the electors, the Liberian people are going to be the one to suffer it. When you listen to the comments, folks, I will listen to one of the local radio station, and I've said this, I don't know why they are still calling the collaboration. They should find another name. Probably before this week come to an end, I will find a name that they can come out to tell the Liberian people what did they really represent. I will listen to their communications director of comments this morning that Unity Party, I haven't seen the press release myself, but according to what he's saying, Unity Party distanced herself from what happens yesterday. Let me put this image out here, courtesy of a front page here. If you see this, peaceful protest turns chaotic. This is here. When you go to other news outlet, you're going to see all of that. And one of their own, the collaboration, Unity Party, the former ruling party, according to Yoba Mulva, who is the communications director, the Unity Party did issue a statement distancing herself, but at the same time criticizing the government of the actions. I don't understand this sort of collaboration. Why these people can't pack their load and go by themselves? Let the Liberian people decide who they want. So before you respond, seeing what we are saying, with the NDC, for example, ever, and I want to have this on record, incorporate Unity Party, Liberty Party, ANC, ALP as any collaboration, as any party to be part of this NDC collaborations, because you told us these people do not have a principle. Will there be any political correctness in the future? that you come back here to give justification that any of these people can join because we are all Liberian?
We have predicted, not just predicting, but critically analyzed the formation of the collaborating political parties and its lack of basic fundamental principles around which they will unite that will serve the interest of the country and the people. And hence the infighting which we saw and predicted that it will ultimately lead to the collapse of the collaborating political party. There were arguments on who should head the ticket. There were arguments on the very document that was formulated by them in order to be a guiding document, that which was also placed in confusion. And let us be very clear, just as has been stated in past interviews and was reported by the press recently, that the collaborating political party has completely collapsed. The former member constituents of that party should not continue altering statements that will be in a way deceptive to the Liberian people to make it appear like this collaborating political party or this alliance is still viable and it can be salvaged. It cannot be salvaged. It should take very learned, sincere, and honest people among themselves to conclude, to understand and conclude that you cannot salvage what has been destroyed already. Moving off from there, our interest is for a newer, stronger coalition to be formed. We are already a coalition. And we have the platform, we have the basis, we have the fundamental principles upon which we have been operating, which centers around the national interest, which centers around Liberia's national interest and the interest of the people, not individuals, for which you've seen our stability all these years. Secondly, because we have been quiet, should not suggest that we have not been working. As I have consistently said, we have been quietly working. We did not create the stage to monopolize it, as I consistently said. If we had done that, you wouldn't be able to see these new actors showing what they know or what they are not capable of. Today, the Liberian people have seen that incapability of that group of people to come together. It is not impossible to come together, but coming together must be based on fundamental principles agreed upon in the interest of the country, not for any individual or individual's interest, which would then lead to infighting. So if we provided a platform and are building upon that, in the future, we are open, as we said, very openly to collaborating with other political parties in the country, but it has to be based on the fundamental interest of.
What I did, I was, Dyke, I was puzzling with these four political parties, these four groups. They are complete disgrace. I can say that that's my view because it's all about themselves. And some of us said this: these people, they are not compatible. There was no way that they could hold. The history of Liberian collaborations or alliances has never worked in Liberia, and it will never work because these people have an hidden agenda. The behaviors of this current opposition under these banners of collaboration, they started the buybacking, they started all of the names calling. They were not honest with the Liberian people. They have 4 or 5 faces. And I'm afraid if these people here, if they even take state power, it would be more than the warring factions those days of proportionality of government, because they're going to fight. If these 4 groups cannot just come to a consensus, they are unable to sit around the table. The very document, the men by themselves, hire professionals, lawyers, and all of a sudden we saw the sky coming down, descending upon all of us. And all we are hearing now, justification, quote and quote, all of it. This is it's crazy. How can you effectively now be based on this sort of collaboration that we have? it makes it a challenge for you to sell to the Liberian people your coalition that you're having with other political parties, because people will see there like, this is a snake coming to us. We saw this before. It makes it a challenging for you.
I will give you one example. We understand that many coalitions in Liberia have failed the political test and collapsed. But there is one coalition that passed that test, and that coalition was the Grand Coalition of 1985. That coalition was formed after the elections in which President Doe participated after he was a military man, wanted to turn himself into a civilian president. Jackson F. Doe, all indications, all polls and every indication show that Jackson F. Doe of the Liberia Action Party won that election, but the elections were rigged. Now, the Grand Coalition was then formed post-elections, after the elections. And the interest of the Grand Coalition was a national interest. What was that national interest? To have democracy reinstituted. So the coalition's program was re-elections. So it was not about one particular individual. In that coalition, the Liberian People's Party, which was a progressive party, the United People's Party, which was a progressive party, all participated in that coalition, although those two parties were banned by the Doe government at the time. So they didn't participate in the 1985 elections.
Yeah.
But they were part of the formation of that Grand Coalition. And that the theme of that Grand Coalition was re-election for reinstituting democracy. So everyone gathered around a national cause, because we were now wanting our country to come out of military rule to civilian rule. So that was a plank, a national plank around which everyone centered. And it was not about one individual wanting to be president, and all of us did agree. We recognized, looking at the polls and everything, that Jackson F. Doe won the elections. And so we rallied around that character and around a national interest. So there was not this infighting. The second thing, so that coalition was the only coalition in Liberian history we can say that held, although there was never re-elections. And of course, I will give much credit to the late legendary, what they call pamphleteer, journalist, Albert Port, who was also an engine in the creation of that coalition because of his advocacy for democracy and his advocacy for re-election that time.
We are hearing massive preparation is in the making of NDC convention in Liberia. Is that a convention?
Yes, the NDC will be going to convention in Liberia. The NDC USA chapter had its consultative meeting at the end of last year on 27th November 2021. The leadership was restructured, and we had a new corps of leadership elected. Comrade Councillor James Verdier was elected chairman of the NDC USA North American chapter. Comrade James B. Josiah was elected co-chairman, one of the co-chairmen. Jeff Kona was elected one of the co-chairmen. Colley was elected one of the co-chairmen. And we have Ambulai Johnson, who was elected Secretary General. He's a public health practitioner, graduate of the Johns Hopkins University. So we have a corps of officers who are now leading the NDC, and we came up with a resolution which spelled out taking the national interest first, going to Congress and made our proposition to the national leadership. Fortunately, the national chairman of the National Democratic Coalition, Alaric Topa, was in the US and he participated in those meetings. So we had a direct link with the national team. On this basis, the National Democratic Coalition will now be going to its Congress to elect a new corps of national leaders. And our program is to strengthen our chapters in the various counties, as we've been working very quietly. in a very stealth manner, and giving the others the stage so that the Liberian people can see. Yesterday, we fought for democracy. We have multi-party democracy today. And that's the stage that we prepare for multi-party democracy. Looking at what is happening now, it is about time that we step in and not the question of kicking out anybody, but as we said, we give out this olive branch to everybody. Look, stop this confusion. What you had has been destroyed. So go back to base. We ask all political parties in the CPP to just go your separate ways, reevaluate yourselves sincerely. And there are very good people in these parties. You know, reevaluate yourself sincerely, see where you went wrong, and then we can begin to reformulate a coalition that will be based on the national interest and not on an individual's objectives or aspirations of promoting themselves.
And some of us find it very difficult now when people tell us on national interest of the country, are like, oh, here we go again, because we have heard this narrative over and over and over. Dr. Dougbeh, if we were to call you, let me ask you, will you guys be electing external bearer at our convention?
Our idea is it depends on what the circumstances produce. This convention is not meant for electing standard bearers, electing leadership. We have already said that we will be putting forth presidential and presidential candidates in the coming elections, given the circumstances, if the circumstances provide. We will also be putting forth legislative candidates, that means for the House of Representatives and the House of Senate. So all of these options are open. This particular convention is a special one that will re-energize our base that have been working quietly or restructured.
Do you see this as a perfect time? Do you see this as a perfect time with this sort of chaotic situation going on with these other full collaboration? Do you think that's a perfect time for the NDC to resurrect?
We had these plans all along. Like I said, it's just now that these plans are being made overt. So these were our plans all along, that at certain point in time, we had a timetable, we had a milestone to achieve. And we have been achieving those milestones every step of the way. One of which was to restructure the North America USA chapter to elect the leaders and re-strengthen it. We achieved that, to hold a consultative meeting, not necessarily a congress, a convention, but to hold a major consultative meeting, which we achieved. The next plan was to go to Congress, and we had scheduled the first quarter of 2022 for our Congress. So it may be a coincidence, and I think it is the appropriate time as well, because in the midst of this confusion, in the midst of the confusion being created by many sides, there is a need to clarify this confusion. There is a need for some alternative view. There's a need for some critical analysis of some of the falsehood that has been perpetrated from many sides. The misinterpretation of court proceedings, for example, which you have been discussing with other people, allowing the court system to take its course, and for many sides to stop giving their own interpretation to what the court proceedings are and what's going on. It confuses everybody. It confuses the layman. So we think there is a need to step in and provide this alternative that is highly needed by the people. Yes, we talk about national interest every time. Nowhere will you see that the Liberian people will say that Dougbeh had never served the national interest. Nowhere the Liberian people will ever tell you that an Alaric Topa had never served the national interest. Nowhere the Liberian people will tell you that James Verdier had never served the national interest. Nowhere the Liberian people will ever tell you that interpretation had never served the national interest. So when we speak of the national interest, one of which was to create a multi-party democratic platform, which we are all practicing today, that is a plus for us. That is an authentication of what we have promised our people and what we were able to deliver. So we think we have that credible, honest voice to speak to the Liberian people, that they will understand that there is an alternative in this country. And all we are seeing is not all what that Liberia has.
Dr. Ota, you've been in the vanguard for this social, economic, and democratic values for modern civilization to modern society. I honestly think there is a bottom line. Do you recognize this building, Abahami?
That's the famous executive mansion constructed by the Totman's administration when he constructed a lot of the major government buildings in the country, including the Capitol building and the Temple of Justice. Behind you is the executive mansion.
A history tells us that's the official residence of the President of the Republic.
That is the official residence of the president. It got burned, gutted by fire for the last almost 15, going to 20 years now. There have been money appropriated to renovate that mansion. That mansion is still standing, dilapidated.
Will you love to go in this building?
I have the constitutional right to run for any office, and depend on what my political party, my political coalition, or a future coalition decides. That places me in a situation whereby I can be elected. And that is where we talk about institutional mandate. Elected as representative, elected as senator, elected as, I hope mayors were elected also. I could be elected as mayor of Kawieken City, for example, or Gompa City. I could be elected as president of Liberia.
Okay, why you decide to make that last?
Well, those are the series of elected positions, and those will be determined by the party, the political party, or a political coalition that comes together on a basic fundamental platform that serves the national interest, and then looks for who is best fit within that coalition, within a group of people, to be put forth as candidate or for an elected position. And that is what we spelled out also, that we are prepared to go into coalition with other like-minded political parties that may come out of the broken CPP or that are around, in order to first and foremost focus on Liberia's national interest. When we agree on that, the platform which we have already, then we can look in the room and see, given the atmosphere, every political atmosphere suggests a trend, and you cannot ignore those trends. So given the political atmosphere or trend that may be existing at a particular time, who is more suited in this whole group to be pushed as the presidential candidate? Who can we pair this presidential candidate with that will make this ticket strong? Who can we select to go against XYZ for representative or for Senate? There and then we can come up with those decisions. That way, it will avoid the infighting and the personality clashes that we have seen characterizing the operations of the collaborating political parties over the last 3 years, and of which the Liberian people are tired.
Are you tired?
The Liberian people want hope. The Liberian people are tired of their hopes being devastated and dashed. That is where that fatigue is.
Okay, so let's talk about it, because and I've said this repeatedly on my network. We're not going to leave it with CPP. We're not going to leave it with NDC. We're not going to leave it with the coalition, the ruling establishment, because if we are quiet, ultimately at the end of the day, we all become the victims and victors of the actions of these people. So I don't necessarily have to be part of a political institution to have this sort of conversation. I have a big fish to fry inside, everything to poke into, because your decision will have impact on me as well. So the ongoing What do you make of this ongoing saga? I mean, I just don't like to talk about it, but we need to talk to give people, because the electors are confused. Some are deliberate, some are defiant, some are diehard loyalists. Like you have the Trumpers here as well, because I don't care how their people does it wrong, they do not tell them. You listen to the conversation now, and it's quite amazing to see what is unfolding in the political process in Liberia. People have created this sort of political satire. You must be always be dramatic, so you will have attract attention. It kills the substance of the conversation. I'm not hearing anybody talking about how they intend to improve the agricultural industry in Liberia. I'm not hearing anybody talking about the educational system, how much they're going to invest, for example. I am not hearing extensively their infrastructural development program. I am not hearing about how they intend to downsize government. I haven't seen all of these political actors, the Kumi, the Boycott, the Ure, and even maybe the ruling establishment. Okay, they've been going places here and there, but to see the opposition must be able to conduct themselves with political tolerance. I haven't seen any of them sitting down with world leaders to make the case for Liberia, going to ECOWAS, going to EU, even coming to America, for example, meeting state senator, making their way to meet speaker, and tell the world the narrative of Liberia, what Liberia needs. Instead, basement parties is all over the place, and yet their people celebrate them and cheer them up that yes, they are doing. I'm not seeing anything much being done. The National Rehabilitation Commission, as a government institution, to make it to work. Instead, lawmakers are involved. They all having NGOs now said they are involved in rehabilitation process. You are a doctor, you are a scientist. It takes a lot. Where is the clinicians? Where are the psychiatrists? Where are the people? Instead, people rally bare box mattresses are here and take them to Liberia, and people, their supporters, come to tell us at least he's doing. I don't want to hear at least. I want to see government working for the people. I can't remember the last time Jack Reed coming here to say, okay, I'm just building this, or David Cicilline. No. What they do, they sit in the House of Elder, whether they are seditions or a Liberty Party, they sit and build consensus and share their project or share their vision for the country. It's not happening.
It is unfortunate that, and we've been saying this over and over, that we have not been seeing anything. Again, this is where when we talk about national interest, that we have not been seeing anything from opposition politicians who have this microphone, have been talking to our people and trying to organize themselves into an alliance. We've not seen anything from them as to how to move Liberia forward from its backwardness, from its present undemocratic tendencies, from its present economic decline, from its long-standing lack of self-sufficiency in agriculture, from the decaying educational system that we have, from the dilapidated healthcare facilities that we have. We've not been able to see these things being articulated from the opposition politicians that have had a mic over the last period of time. And this is where, when we talk about organizing based on national interest in order to move the country forward, that's exactly where we are. We've put forth a platform and an objective of looking at the healthcare situation in the country. How do we improve the healthcare situation in our country so that people don't go to Ghana or go to other places? It doesn't mean that going to Ghana is bad. I'm not saying that. But Liberia had one of the best healthcare facilities in West Africa, if a sub of the Sahara, with John F. Kennedy being a major referral hospital in most of West Africa at the time. The A.M. Douglas College trained a lot of doctors from all over Africa when most of Africa was colonized. We trained a lot of doctors. So why is it that cannot click to our politicians to understand that? Liberia had a very good economy going, although the economic gains were inequitably distributed. but the country had a good GDP yearly. Where are we today? We have a negative, if you can, we have a negative growth. If zero had a negative, you can add zero to that negative. But that's just a joke. In education, as I stated, our educational system is down. So what are the plans in improving our educational system? The University of Liberia, completely dilapidated. Students sit in classroom that are, leaking of water when it's raining. The university main campus is just right opposite the Capitol building, and lawmakers are there and cannot appropriate or include an appropriation in the budget to renovate the campus of the university, to provide internet access, to bring it up to the standard of modern day academic environment. Yet they abrogate to themselves thousands and thousands of dollars for so-called legislative engagement that accounts for between $15,000 to $30,000. You have the country's own national security. You have people coming into the country, going and carrying out illicit mining, and government is not paying much attention to that. On the other hand, opposition is not providing the necessary plan that will stop that and that will have our resources being used for the benefit of our people. So these are all the things that the National Democratic Coalition has put forth. We have had this all along, and we put this forth to say, hey, you didn't do that. You are only centering around who becomes the head of your ticket, or your documentation that will bind you has been questionable. Here is what is existing. This is how an organization of a coalition should be based. Like the way the 1985 coalition was organized, the Grand Coalition, and the way the National Democratic Coalition today is now organized, that is stable. And so these are the programs for national development, national interest that the National Democratic Coalition is putting forth. And we open our arms to all others. Do not waste. I have to be very, and this is what when I become critical, some people don't like it. And I don't become critical for people to like or don't like me. Is the fact, do not waste your time saying you can salvage the CPP. It will be a waste of the time of your followers, of your members, and of your energy and resources, because it's broken. The Liberty Party is fragmented. It's in fragmented pieces. The ALP, All Liberian Party, has pulled out. There are several indications that the UP, the United Party, which is the largest party in there, may not be going forward, except that its leader is the head of the party, so the decision-making process has been kind of slow. But the party is completely fragmented. The coalition has broken apart. So the best thing to do is to go your separate way, which we have called for a long time, reevaluate yourself, look around, find other political entities that have like minds with you, and you can collaborate on that basis, collaborating mainly based on national interest. And that's why we continue to push. We are not creating a coalition just to go for election to defeat WIA, because that's one of the programs around which most of the coalition was organizing around, to make WIA a one-term president. To make WIA a one-term president.
That was the rhythm.
That cannot be the aim of a coalition. The coalition in 1985 was not necessarily against Dole. It was necessarily to reinstitute democracy from military to civilian. Yes. And so our plan here, looking at what Liberia has gone through, is to put Liberia on the path of progress, so that we are in line with countries like Ghana, which is in the region, and country like Rwanda. Rwanda and us have similar situation. Rwanda is far ahead of us, so that we can have good educational system. We can upgrade our agricultural basis for the country to be self-sufficient with the good land that we have that can produce a lot of rice that we eat and we can sell that rice to neighboring countries and the world. Why should we have such a land when we begin to import rice from China and from the East Asian countries? It doesn't make any sense. Why do we have huge reserves of iron ore when we cannot produce a needle that will be used to give injections? Why do we have rubber, and up to this point we have been unable to produce gloves? We've been unable to produce condoms. Why do we have all of these things and yet we are poor? Why are we rich and yet we are poor? So why is it also that our workers continue to produce the wealth of the country, but the people are not getting the fair share of the wealth of the country? This is where we talk about equity, and that is what those who organize themselves in certain opposition are not advocating. And this is why we are advocating, and we are calling upon everyone to center around this national interest that will move us forward. That's what the National Democratic Coalition is for.
Comrade Jim Josiah, we want to welcome you on LPR. Look, this how you call it, collaboration, it been there long and gone. Only the funeral is still at stake, but sooner or later they're going to be, because even if what I heard today, because Unity Party, yes, what we're saying for Unity Party to even distance herself, they are also saying it's a political ploy against Cummings. He's not part of the folks in the bear wheel. But we saw this coming when these sort of name types of callings was coming. He's not a stranger, he's not this. So I was wondering to what extent their conversations were to even come together as a collaboration, because you have to empty all. There must be some sort of openness. I'm not sure whether they have that sort of engaged conversation. And it was just like, okay, George, we are the CDC government not doing something. Let's put something, because the fellow Liberian people needed some sort of immediate. So it's like there was no long-term and short-term planned to put this over. So
I will take it from there and tell you that the Liberian people should not be underestimated. The Liberian voters should not be underestimated. Throughout the time since we instituted democracy, from the sweat and blood that we wasted in the social democratic and progressive community, we understand the psychology.
Why the progressive allow people to take this microphone away?
Because they needed to see who else is in Liberia. If we did monopolize it, they would not have seen the Alternative National Congress and their leaders. They would not have seen the ALP and their leaders. They would not have seen others. So it's important that everybody play on the stage. It's a theater we organize. So you have actors coming on stage so that the audience will see who is performing better and who is not. If you monopolize the stage, it's going to be undemocratic. We fought for democracy. We fought for multi-party democracy. So we could not monopolize the stage only simply because we created it. And I give credit to our forefathers, though, who were all progressive, starting with the very J.J. Roberts himself. It took progressive ideas to come out of America in slavery, to come home to say you are creating a country in the midst of slavery during that time. These were all progressive ideas. So when people talk about progressive, they don't really understand it, and they try to give it a negative connotation. President William R. Talbot, one of the progressive presidents on the continent of Africa, a Pan-Africanist. Blyden, Tipote, Sawyer, Matthews, Pajibo, Tokwa, Mason, and the list goes on. Now, you may think that Stephen Talbot was not progressive, but again, this is where these discussions come in. Stephen Talbot challenged. I mean, we may say, everybody may give it the interpretation they want to give it, but Stephen Talbot challenged the international capitalist war by establishing a Liberian African-based commercial business entity that was doing a very good job in fishery and in other aspects of the Liberian economy. Today, we are talking about Liberianization. We can take instances from that. Wherever the problem was, people say it was nepotistic. That's another story to discuss, but it was nationalistic also. So we can take that nationalistic aspect and employ it to today's war. Our entire economy has been overtaken by foreigners. Foreigners not in a negative sense, but it has not been Liberianized. The current government, public part government, also went against Liberian business people.
They are not in charge of their own.
We are not in charge of our own economy. You can't find that anywhere. So it is difficult for us to build a real good middle class. These are all the programs that the National Democratic Coalition has laid out in a platform, which all center around national interest, and not whether XYZ wants to be president or not. So that's where we are.
And I hope we're going to be having access to this microphone now to regulate it. We want to see. We can't keep showcasing these people who are not willing to conduct themselves maturely. That I can say. I'm saying that because seeing what they are doing, seeing their talking point. I can remember like in the days of 85 when people like Bole, Jabaron Kalon, those people, when they sit around the table, don't get me wrong, there are disagreements there, but they sit and discuss and they talk. But I also know that time has significantly involved in the 21st century. But for God's sake, the behaviors of these people is not giving Liberian people hope. So if Liberians like myself are hearing about another correlation with what we are experiencing and more to be experienced, it's a fear. Are you guys willing to give this? Are you guys willing for us to have full access? We are willing to give this microphone. Are you willing to give or more about the progressive ideas as well?
Certainly, we've always been open. We will always share our ideas. We'll always make ourselves available. We have a lot of people who can come on your platform. If you invite us, we can make those arrangements.
We are open. That's why make a library. That's why make a library public radio. We don't create theater here. We don't create amusement center here. We don't do.
That's what I respect of you.
We want to have an honest and genuine conversation, no matter what is the relation to ask people. So we're not here to really entice to entertain people. Liberia is in desperation. I don't see our politicians, the way they behave and the way they do things, and they all turn back and even poke in the eyes of the government is unfair because we have the three branches of government. They must work simultaneously. The first branch must hold the executive accountable. But what are they doing? Are they doing enough? Are they having a conversation? You can be a lawmaker and be kind of like a jerky guy and you expect people. In our house, it's all about consensus building. If you can't build consensus, you stay there for the next 4, 5, 10, 8 years, you will not achieve anything.
But here is one important aspect that we also need to look at. The very opposition political parties have lawmakers in the Senate and the House of Representatives. Correct. To what extent have they been able to hold them accountable and responsible in order to redirect the affairs of the country for the good of the country?
How can that be? They give justifications of their action about the government alone, which is unfair.
And this is where we talk about institutional mandate. When you earlier asked me whether I will run or I will not run, this is where we talk about institutional mandate. You must be accountable to a political institution. You must be guided by the philosophies of that political institution in where you are representing them or representing your people. Because this is lacking, so you have lawmakers coming from all of these parties, but then they are free-flowing. So the government itself, we know, has failed the people. That is evidential enough. We have enough evidence to prove that. The people want change. But what change the people want is another question. So we cannot continue to criticize the government when we ourselves are in our institutions are undemocratic in the first place, and we are not holding our lawmakers who are supposed to hold the executive,
they are not
to
exactly.
be accountable, are themselves not accountable to anything. So you have this breakdown of governance in our country, in Liberia. It's a total breakdown of governance, in which we can simply, the political scientists and sociologists alike would term a breakdown of the political fabric and the structure of the country. This is where we are focusing to reinstitute that pride that Liberia had in the region, that pride that Liberia had internationally, being the only country that was part of the creation of the League of Nations and then the United Nations, then the OAU, which is now the AU, then ECOWAS, then Mana River Union.
Okay,
We have to put Liberia back on the path of its past glory and beyond that. We have to make Liberia very much self-sufficient in food production. We have to make Liberia's education, which was once a pride of West Africa. We have to reinstitute that. We need quality education. We have to provide basis for our doctors graduating from WLT and other colleges around the world to go for further studies for specialization. We need to have good economists that we already have put in proper positions that will analyze our economy and provide a very good plan as to how we have better economic growth and economic prosperity. How do we compete with other countries? How do we compete with the world economically? We cannot be a country that is only begging for aid and grants and donations when we have the resources and the money that is being misappropriated and corrupted. So all of these things need to be re-evaluated. And that is what the National Democratic Coalition stands for. That's what we have been preaching. And that's why we hope the other political parties will come to understand so that we all work together. And mind you, the current government will be very happy about that. Because if you are criticizing them based on facts and evidence, as I said during my 2016 national oration, there you can hold their feet to the fire, as we always said.
Okay. I hope we'll not come back here and have this sort of political correctness again, because you politicians, you advocates, so and I always say, yeah, nobody, I'm tired, nobody going to advocate for me now. I'm going to be talking for myself, because these people, we allow you to talk, and they talk, and then when time comes, when they get on the 8th floor or they get on the 2nd floor, 3rd floor, whatever Capitol building, they become stubborn, they lie on a daily basis, and they give justifications of their action. They are being backed by their blind loyalists to say, yes, at least. I don't want at least. There's nothing called at least in government. People should be proud to serve, to work for, everybody want to work for the state. But the mindset of our Liberian people goes in government to corrupt the government, to steal from the government, to cheat for their same very government. Who does that? But yet and still you have people to serve for them. 2023 is not far. We need to know who's going to be the face of the NDC. Will we know how long you're going to take us to know?
Oh, certainly.
I don't want
time,
time and seconds. I'm coming back. I don't want surprise. I don't like surprises. Only surprise I like when you package a gift, but not for the national cause. Because you politicians, you advocates in Liberia now, we don't even know the good one from the bad one. However, there are good ones. But what I've also come to realize with the Liberian people, it's hard for them to pick the good from the bad. It seems the bad triumph over the good. So they will look at it here pure and they say, no, this other chemical combination does not make up this color here. I will go to this. And this is why everybody has adopted this sort of cussing, abusing, and don't care, no respect for one another. That's why there's no political consensus. That's where there's no political backing it. We see it here in as much how better the Democrats, the Republican, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Kuku, but they will still sit and talk. They will still sit and talk. I can remember the last time our leaders, both from the opposition, to say they're going to have a lunch, to share notes of their agenda, how the country is going to move forward. It's not happening. Everything, they throw it on the executive. But like you rightfully said, they are the first branch of government. They must be held accountable. They must illustrate those principles of democracy. They are not. And they want to hold other people. How can you hold me accountable when you yourself not want to be held accountable? So I don't know where we are going.
And this is where we talk about the goulash of confusion that has been created by these situations in the country. It therefore requires level-headed people, both in the political advocacy realm and in the press, to intervene and provide clarity to these issues.
Interrupt. I ask you a question, but we always tap into our onliners. They are our valuable participants. Their comments, their views. They don't represent the management and staff of the LPR, but yet Mapu Hose, did that want to be president now? Are you willing to answer his question? You want to be president now?
I thought we'd addressed that previously, that every Liberian citizen has the right under the Constitution to run for any office they want to run for.
Okay.
Mine will be determined by an organization, and it's not going to be a self-interest. The same self-interest we are seeing today, for which those self-interests are clashing.
Okay. I just want to make sure that his views are heard. Okay, what time is catch up with us yet? We're going to be in Liberia very shortly. We hope we're going to extend our microphone to not to all. We're going to make it proportional, all interest group, except for those. And I want to thank you first of all, because for every time we place a call or a message somehow, yeah, you always make time for us, knowing your busy schedule. I hope some of the other politicians they move in that direction, because I don't want to be judgmental. I want to hear it from the house's mouth so that I can hold them accountable. But these people, they are being shielded by their supporters. They don't want people to ask questions. They don't want to have honest conversations, or they want to have this sort of Sherman Brown type of conversation. Those days on Lpr-Tv, yes or no, to have maybe pre-arranged questions. And I know we can have a dialogue based on specific surrounding, fair to do that, but they are not doing that. I don't know whether Alice Cumming went to court again. Today is 2023. You have opposition within the same group. I don't get it. Going to court every other day, not going to court because one person feels or somebody say this is not. It's just what is that?
Well, the thing is that I know you asked the question originally when you put the picture on the screen. One thing is that it is unfortunate that the demonstrators were heavy-handedly handled by the police. There's a right to associate, there's a right to demonstrate. And the Liberian people, whoever they support, have the right to associate and express their demonstration of interest or disinterest. And so it was not a good thing that police brutality once again was seen as a reaction to people's civil rights. Another thing is that it is hoped that the press can also help in this process of elucidating and clarifying what is going on. There are a lot of visual internet platforms. We hope that these platforms can be used for purpose of honestly educating the Liberian people as to the democratic process. If a political party wants to have its defined platform and it is called SY Coalitions platform, that can happen. It is their right. But for those who are portraying themselves to be journalists, for those who have come out to tell the Liberian people that they are journalists, we ask you to please be ethical. We ask you to please be honest. We ask you to please be balanced in your reporting. Every individual supports a political process. All the journalists you have around the world, They go to election, they participate in elections. But when it comes to journalism, when it comes to giving out the information, that information should be balanced. And so I can hope that your platform, can bring on 2, 3 different, opposition characters and government characters to hold a kind of discussion. And I think, what you propose will be a very good thing to do, so that you hear from people specifically. That's why we don't hesitate whenever you call on me or you call on us. My people agree and they say, well, you are in the international realm, so you take on that. And we hope that you will have the chance of interviewing our chairman and leaders when you get to Monrovia, as you say you are going home.
I would
We'll
love,
be willing to sit with Ed about it, because this is for the country. And if we say we love this country, we must demonstrate it from what we do professionally and from what we do politically as well. The two must go hand in hand. I have performed my services and continue to perform my professional duties to Liberia and Africa and the world. And like I said, nobody can say that I have done anything that is against Liberia's interest. So that is what the progressives stand for. That is what social democrats, as we are, stand for. And that is what the National Democratic Coalition stands for.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to work. We have said this over and over. In fact, we have gone beyond that by extending invitations to these political institutions so that we will have their direct representation on this network, for the sole purpose so that we get to the inner core of what these parties stand for, not just bring anybody and just talk that you don't represent the institution, always giving opinion. No, no, no. So we are open to that. We hope we'll work with the group here, US, if they can help.
Can I do something very quick?
Go ahead.
From the bottom of my heart, given my long years of advocacy for democracy and social justice in Liberia, along with others who we don't see today because they died, they shared their blood for this democracy, I'd like to throw out an invitation to leaders or members of the Alternative National Congress, members or the leadership of the Unity Party, members or leadership of the All Liberian Party, members or leadership of the Liberty Party. It's difficult to say now who could represent them, but so that we can have a candid discussion, so that we can sit on a round table on a platform like yours, which can be very equitable in providing the atmosphere, so that we discuss, so that the Liberian people can hear from different perspectives and they can formulate their informed opinion. I throw out this invitation to all of you and to all the other political parties that I have not named. It's not that I neglected you, but we throw out this invitation humbly to discuss with the National Democratic Coalition in an open televised, in an open and televised platform, so that you hear from us. Also, you can post questions.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that because we are trying to reach out to the breaker for this is the lack of structures of these political institutions, and all of them, this sort of bureaucratic system. And that's what I said. You're not even get to the effluent. They are chained. They build a wall of Jericho. When you call this person, the person gonna call this. They have 10 special assistants, for God's sake. They're not even on the effluent. They're building a BME. So what happens when they get there? How do we get access to them? This is the challenge.
The bureaucracy. That's the bureaucracy and ultra bureaucracy that we want to reduce from government. This bureaucracy, hyper bureaucracy, and ultra democracy, ultra bureaucracy that we want to get away from. And that is why every time you call on us, it doesn't take 2-3 persons before a decision is made.
The bureaucracy applies to certain institutions, to certain group of people, but other people, when they read it, the slide door opens. And I think it's unfair. What I agree or disagree with you, I want to give you the opportunity so that I will get to your side of the stories. Maybe I'm hearing different things. And that's the problem. These politicians, we have reached out to the cassette team, the boycott, to be honest, ANC, at least they have given access to their standard bearer, Mr. Cummings. We're working out one again to sit in an exclusive. because there are some real cardinal issues, questions that we want to put. I want to send that out to the boycott folks. Whoever they are mediator or communication person, stuff like that. We want to do that. We want to give everybody the opportunity so that they will be heard. But if you turn your back on my microphone, then I can potentially make a judgment to say, hey, this is who Dr. Chris Dougbeh is, because I gave him the opportunity to talk to me and he did not talk. Then I have all right to jump into speculations and hyperbole and all of that. That's not what we want to do. Dr. Chris Dougbeh, I want to thank you so much for your time here on LPR. We're looking forward to having this conversation. Let the NDC open up. We will extend our microphone. Like I said, we're going to be going in Liberia. I want to sit, let our camera face the leader. We need to know. We can't be having this as a secret, but we need to know who really wants to be the president, so that we can have enough time to take a review, to profile this individual. This sort of surprises thing here is not good for the country, and that's where it can get us. I want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and I hope we're going to be having this conversation. We will keep time on this the convention, even whether we are there or back. We will dispatch our team to have a conversation. I think Liberia deserves better. We need to undo this sort of entertainment conversation. Just jump out, you break news that doesn't worth breaking because you want to entertain, you want to amuse. It all helps to kill what is going on in the country. It takes away the substance of the conversation. And we intend not to do that here on the Liberia Public Radio. Your last word.
My last word is to thank you and your audience and the Liberian people for listening. That what you see out there that is confusing you is not all that Liberia has. Liberia has quality people, professionals who have the ingredients of leadership to lead our country to prosperity. Liberia has honest people. Among them are doctors, nurses, engineers, and you name it, in various professions. Among them are also politicians, very sincere politicians and advocates who can lead that country. So what you are seeing is not all that Liberia has. And I want to say that to the international community as well, that they shouldn't be shocked, that they should please continue to guide our situation, for we will get out of it. I like to admonish everyone watching to please be an ambassador to carry out this campaign against vaccine hesitancy. That's what the world is presently experiencing. Take your vaccines, take your boosters, keep your distances when you are in, crowded places. Avoid crowded places for that matter. Keep washing your hands and sanitizing your hands. Through this, we'll be able to beat this pandemic. So I thank you very much, and I appreciate the invitation extended every time.
All right. Please, the medical expertise you provided, don't send our bill. LPR does not have any money to pay you. Your pro bono work you've been doing from day one. Let's continue on with it.
All my work I have done all through have been done as an unpaid volunteer. Okay. And I volunteer my expertise to the country and the continent, and I'll continue to do that. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you so much.
So no bill for you.
Okay. Now you're on record, no bill. Okay. Well, folks, that does it this afternoon. I'm Afonso Zien. So in an exclusive with one of our Liberia best scientists, advocates, politician, the National Democratic Coalition of Liberia. There are a lot of good, there are a lot of familiar names, schoolmates from different places. I just heard about Comrade James Josiah from also from the ward of Cardinal, that is the William V. Stockman High School, class of 87. So they are good folks there. But regardless of that friendship, there's no friendship. We're going to give them a fair shot. We're going to ask them tough questions. This, I said it over and over. We should not allow these politicians to determine, or advocates to determine your destination, nor do you allow them to have you like a donkey. You're not like a donkey, because this is what they are noted for. They want to use us as a donkey. I refuse to do that. And you should also resist to do that. Your back is pressure. Why would you want to rouse somebody for what reason? No, don't do that. That's what these politicians want us to do. Too much is at stake. We can just dump all on the government. We all have equal share, equal to responsibility as a citizen, oppositions, advocates, to be honest about what we do and what we profess to do. Until we can get that done, until we can even hold our own accountable, we can then extend that beyond our borderline. We hope to meet with most of the stake actors as long as they give us the opportunity to have these conversations. We will not be mean to them. We will ask honest questions. We have an honest conversation to give them the fair share, to hear their side of the story, how they got to this point, why they want to be. I think that will people will be able to make an informed decision. So if you're biker folks, comment folks, Dr. Cassell, and all of the rest of political actors, once you are open, we'll always give you the even the president, Bakugbe himself, once he available. The last time around, we talked to Maggie to see if we could say. We'll try to make that phone calls again. Solo Cabinet, they are our comrade, they are our friends there. If they give them the opportunity, we will do that. And we'll hear from them. We ask them, what is the progress made? What is happening? What is lacking? What is the issue? What is the challenge? Have they had enough time to tell us the narrative, to tell us their side of the story? We do not want to be judgmental. And if we all can deploy that sense of responsibility as citizens, as people of Liberia, engage our politicians, our political actors, we know exactly where we are heading as a people, as a country. I want to thank Dr. Chris Dougbeh for making his time available here this afternoon, right here on the Liberia Public Radio. We're going to be back here this evening in the last and final segment. Probably tonight program might be my final angering of LPR program right here from the New England Bureau of the Liberia Public Radio. I want to say for now, anything could change. But the next time, probably after tonight or Friday or Saturday, whatever it is, we'll come to that. The next time my voice will be hovering over youth on this network will potentially be in the motherland, Liberia. I'm Afonso Zienso. I want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon, this morning, evening, depending on your locations. Thank you for your tweets, your comments. We don't take anything personal here. All we request is to maintain civility, conversation. Because the more you talk like a gentleman, you talk like a normal human being, you express your thought like a rational person with head on your shoulder, guess what? Your opponent, someone who disagree with you, will pay attention, will take time to process it. This is why we're saying people should start behaving responsible, start acting like toddlers. Be like a grown adult. Have a conversation. You disagree with me, I disagree with you. Put your points through. Let me put my point through. And we can sort between the lines and see what is applicable in our today's dispensation. But when you start cussing me, I'm not going to listen to you. No one wants to do that. We need to share notes. Send yours, send mine, and we'll go through it. And there will be something there out of 4 or 5 lines, potentially. I can agree with number 3 or number 4 and say, you know what, we can work on it. But we all become so bitter, so resentment, and you think we're going to have a conversation? If we do it now, if it work, the possibility in the next generation, because people do it work today, that's how they're going to do it, because they're going to work tomorrow. So we all have to do everything possible we can to undo this sort of conversation of bitterness and resentment and put the interest of the country first. We make comparison with Sierra Leone, Ghana doing this one doing this. Who you think who they are? You think they were uniquely created and God just made all like that? It is our own doing. It is our own behaviors that get us to do what we are doing. You who supporting these politicians, you who pays money and give these people support, and if they don't even, you give them, they don't even come back to tell you how these monies were used And when somebody asked, he said, oh, that's not your business. Your money not inside. Now, some of you now you're burning within because you're never investigated in the first place. Emotions and sentiment took you away, and you make a wrong political calculation. And we are all dealing with it. You're leaving there now, you go into other places. That's the same thing. They don't stick with their party. They don't build institutions. They are unable to go through struggle. The late Muammar Gaddafi said, no pain, no gain. There's no successful revolutions without a bloodshed. Not necessarily to go in a fight, but you have to pay the price. How many of these politicians are willing to pay the price? They want quick fix. They want things to happen quickly. Or they just go into it when it happens, then they come to make a case. Yes, I've suffered. I've been through in jail. I've been beaten. Of course. When you know what it means to challenge a certain government, it doesn't matter in Africa or in USA. When you oppose the government, you are vulnerable to challenges and even to life. That's why you choose to be. So that's not a springboard. That's not a justification for you to come and start doing stupid or crazy thing and you think that we're not going to talk about it. If you want to be a politician, be a politician. You want to be a cat, be a cat. You want to be a dog, be a dog. Do not be a dog cat. It's not possible. You can be two different things at the same time. Until we can have the guts to tell these people that are claiming to be advocates and politicians, we need to hold them. We need to be having a conversation. We are confusing the ordinary Liberian out there who wants to make informed decision. You come to Lpr, you hear different thing. You go to this other place, you hear different thing. As a result, they go with migraine. And you say, you know what? I'm tired and sick of this. And we want to hold them to responsible. The fixing of Liberia is just not only with the executive branch of government. It's not just only with the judicial branch of government. It's not just only with the first branch, the legislature. It's all of us. We have a shared responsibility. Messenger, everybody's cheating. In the USA, nobody want to trust their friend. I give you 5 cents, everybody think they want to play smart, and that's how it creeps in national government. You think these things they're doing are just overnight? No. They started from their organizations. And it happens, people want to chastise them, they say, oh no, you're not leaving, that family thing. And you think they don't obey the law when they get on a floor that you think they're going to obey the law? They're going to do it because they had an easy pass. Thank you so much. And let's do it again. Join us this evening with the team of LPR analysts. We're going to be here to discuss some of the issues, what happens yesterday, and I want to see what's going on today as well. Until then, I'm Alfonso Z, and so have a pleasant evening. Let's do it again.